That's broken. Oh no. Guys, unfortunately we have broken the A-arm. Alright guys, welcome back. Today guys, I've got some maintenance to do on the KRATON 8S EXB. Unfortunately in my previous bash we did end up breaking the arm and a few other bits as well guys. So today we're just going to be repairing all these little bits. I've already started, so I've already replaced the arm, and this is the arm that came off guys, and I just want to quickly show you how bad it was. So it just cracked all the way down from one side to the other, and the pin basically stayed in its place but the arm came away. So luckily the pin wasn't bent at all or anything like that, so it was just a case of me replacing it. I will run through quickly how I replaced this as well. Very simple. Other than that guys, we've got a new bumper spring. I did end up cracking the one that I have installed on this as well, so we'll be replacing that. And we also broke some fan blades, so this is a replacement fan. Now this fan is the SPM XSEF3. So there's two versions of this fan guys. One is the 3 and then the next one is the 4 at the end, and the difference is one has a single plug on it, and the stock ones that come with the smart 160 amp system comes with 2 plugs. So it has a male and a female, so it allows you to connect another fan as well and jump off the power from this fan to power the fan for the motor. So guys, it's not the end of the world at the moment. Unfortunately the version that I did want for the system that I've got installed on here was out of stock, so this was available. So what I'm going to do guys is just end up cutting these wires here and soldering on the loop that I've already got installed on this EXB to power the fan motor. So guys, these are the bits that I'm going to be installing. As I said, I've already started with the arm. Let me get this in a better place. So to replace this arm guys, we need to remove the bumper first. And to remove this bumper, you've got 4 screws. You've got 2 at the front here and then 2 at the bottom. Remove them 2, remove the 2 around here, and then the whole thing should just slide off the front. Once you've removed that, you then will have access to the pin that holds the arm in place. In my case, that pin was still in its place, but the arm was all flopping. So I did remove that pin. That pin was perfectly fine. Once I've done that, then it's a case guys of removing all the furniture. So next I remove this screw here to release the shock. Once I've released the shock, then we also have on the EXB version, let me show you from here, we have this sway bar as well guys, and this sway bar is attached on the arm as well, so we have to remove the sway bar. So to remove that sway bar, I'll just spin you around. So guys, just here there's a screw just in there, and that screw goes all the way through and it holds this arm for the sway bar in place. You have to remove that screw, then the sway bar will be released. Next, just inside here we need to find the ball, and I don't know if I can get any light into there, but the ball itself has a Allen key head to it, so you're able to put my Allen key straight through, got the ball in the right position, and I unscrewed it, and it meant the whole of the pivot ball from here unscrewed from the arm guys, and released it. Once I've done that, just a case of removing this collar from the original one and putting it onto the new one guys, and just a pair of more grips, and it was just a case of persuading it, loosening it up. I did give it a bit of heat just to release the cover, and then I was able just to bring it off and then put it back on to the new one. Once I've done that guys, it's all a case of putting everything back together again, making sure the out drive is located, and there's nothing worse than putting all these things back together again, then realizing that your drive shaft isn't in. so you have to remove everything and get it back in again. So once I've done all of that, everything else was quite straightforward, guys. Put the bumper back on, put the wheel back on again, and you can see I've also doused it in a bit of WD-40. So that's that, guys. That's the arm being replaced. Next, guys, we've got to replace this bumper spring, and you can just see here we've got a crack on there, so it's quite easy to replace that, guys. I'm just going to snip these wires off for my lights, and then it's just 4 screws, 1 2 3 4. That should just come straight off, and put the other one straight on. So the screws out, it should just be a case of pulling it off. You can see there, it's broke there. Doesn't look like it's broke anywhere else. So anyway, let's get the new one in. Should just drop straight in. It should locate itself and screw it back in. As simple as that. Right, that's that done. Next, guys, turn our attention to the fan. We're going to need a 2mm bit for these screws, and these screws aren't tight, just because when you do tighten these screws up, the fan tends to go slightly out of shape and not turn, so I tend to leave them loose a little bit. Should be a case of, that's the cover off. And I did try to repair this fan, guys, so we're going to take off the motor wires. And just a good tip with these motor wires, try and place them in a place. Oh, just in some more carnage. So 1 second, let's get this all off. Right, so try and place them in order, just to save yourself. So for me, that'll be number one, number 2, and number 3 here. Then we've got the fan cover as well. And guys, I've just seen that we've also broken the brace end. I've not noticed that before. Luckily I do have some replacements, so I will replace that as well, guys. What we'll do is I'll remove this fan out of the way first. Let's get that dealt with, and then at the same time we'll sort out the problem with that. So to remove this fan, it should just drop out the bottom, and you just need to unplug it from this coupler. Get it from that side. And if you notice, I've also had to cut a bit of this housing away, so I'm able to feed the plugs back through. As I said, I did try to repair this fan and I wasn't able to get that blade to stay, so I just decided to replace it instead. So it's a bit fiddly, you just need to get it in the right place, and then you can just push it through. So that's the fan off, and you can see I already did something similar to this fan. I did end up soldering the coupler and the plug to the fan, so I'm going to do the same thing on this new one, guys. So this is the new one. So I've had to replace a few of these over the few months that I've had the 8S rigs, so they do tend to be prone to breakages quite a lot, guys. I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip this off here, snip it off there, snip this plug off, the new one as well guys, and then I'm just going to solder the two together, and I'll get that done quickly off camera just to save some time, and I'll show you the end result. Okay guys, the new motor is now soldered, so we've got our loop wire now attached, and here is where we soldered it. I just got a bit of heat shrink over the top of it just to give that join a bit of protection. We don't want any of them wires rubbing against each other. And then this guys is the new fan, and you can see just here I've gone around at every fan blade guys, and I've just reinforced it using some 2-part glue. So this is a glue that I used. In the UK here we get stuff called Arrma, basically 2-part glue that you just mix together, and it does give you a good strong adhesion. And using the toothpicks, I've just popped a little bit on the end of the toothpick and I've just run it across where the fan blade meets the spindle in the center guys, and I've done that on every single blade, and then I whipped it over and I've done the same on the underneath as well. So hopefully this should mean that we don't break any more fan blades. In my experience guys, this is the fan blade does break at this point here, so this is the weakest point. So I'm hoping that this should hopefully now result in us not breaking any more fan blades. Here is the old one, you can see there I've just nipped off the wires. I did something similar before, so we got a bit of solder on the end of that wire, and you can see where the fan blade is actually missing. And I did try to reinforce these blades that were left, just in case. I didn't want to really break any more blades until the new fan arrived. And here's the old connection on the fan that came, so we just snipped them off basically. So this is now ready to be put back into the car. So that's what it looks like. That's how much of it I had to remove to get this plug through guys, and it's this big plug here that causes you the biggest problem. And when the original fan arrives to you brand new, this coupler here isn't attached, and that allows you then to feed this wire through the fan housing without having to cut anything. But once that is attached, you can't remove that guys, that gets clipped in. So I had to remove a bit more on the fan housing just to allow this plug to be fed through. So it should just be a case of feeding it back through. And just before we do that, I just want to point out another thing. Just here on the side of the fan guys, there's a couple of arrows. One is pointing downwards and one is pointing forwards. So this is the way you need to install this guys. You need to have that arrow pointing down and that one pointing forwards. So let's get this back in. So there we go. Just needs a little persuasion. It should just be a case of pulling it through. The other one should fit through nice and easily, so it's a bit smaller. Feed these wires through. So again, remember which way it's meant to be. So the arrow pointing forwards and an arrow pointing downwards. Sit like that. And guys, another thing you have to make sure is these wires don't get trapped anywhere when you're feeding these through, because you have a screw that's going to go straight through there and you don't want any wires to be in there. So just make sure, and then it's just a case of pushing it all back down. And in my case guys, I've got a cover, so I'm going to put this cover back on, and then just tighten the screws. You've got to remember not to over tighten these screws, so just a couple of turns. As long as it's that. Right, that's on. And then it's just a case of hooking everything back up again. So just before you put this plug back in, make sure your polarity is correct, and just on the housing itself there's a plus and a minus as well. So this equates to the red being positive and the black wire being negative. It just goes on like this. Then you've got this coupler just to plug back in again. Make sure your polarity is correct. Goes on like that. And then it's a case of putting your motor wires back on. So guys, that's the fan now replaced. As I was waiting for the glue to dry on the blades, guys, I did go ahead and do another mod, and I just want to quickly share that with you as well. Just on the front here, I did earlier on have to replace this bumper spring because we did break it just around here. So what I've done this time, guys, is I've used some foam padding, and it's quite thick stuff. So this is the stuff that I used. It's quite similar to the foam blocks that you get in the X-Max battery trays, but this was my little one's toy. They're actually foam dominoes, and what I've done is I've just cut some ovals out the right shape, and I've just popped them in, and it's spongy, but it doesn't collapse all the way, guys. So this is what I wanted, some kind of material then to take some of the impact on this front bumper. I don't want to be breaking this spring, because you can't really buy this spring on its own. You have to buy the front bumper, and the front bumper does come with a spring, so you'll just end up with a load of front bumpers that you're not going to really use, and replacing this spring again and again. So guys, I feel that you do need something in here to stop this front spring from collapsing all the way, well, resulting in us cracking these front springs. So we get quite happy with that. Can't wait to give that a test. I've done the same for my Outcast 8S as well. It's got the same kind of setup, so I've just popped a couple in there as well. What I will do with this, just to finish it off, is I'll probably piece a couple of holes in the center and just run some cable ties through them, just so if they do pop out I don't lose them. So guys, next we've got this breakage here. We did end up breaking the rod end for the lower brace, which is something that I just discovered whilst I was doing the other repairs today, guys. I didn't even realize I'd broken that, but luckily I do have a spare, so we can quickly swap that out. It should be quite straightforward. Unfortunately, the pin that holds this lower brace in place is impeded by the ESC, so I'm going to have to remove this ESC out of the way quickly, pull this pin out, and then I should be able to just pop everything back on and should be good to go. So let me quickly get this ESC out of the way, guys, and let me get that done. So just 4 screws, and we should be able to lift it up. What I'll do is, just to make life a bit easier, I'm just going to remove the motor wires as well. I'm just going to unplug the fan as well from this side. We can just lift this whole thing out of the way. That's a lot easier. So now we just need to pull the pin out. Put it on my fingers, I think. There we go. Should just be able to just turn this thing. Now I know M2C do an aluminium one, I think, which really is a good idea because to me it sounds like these ends here are a weak point. They are made of plastic, and the rest of all this bracing system is metal. So I can see me breaking this again, but because I've already got some spares, I'm just gonna utilize what I've already got. Quite a long thread, guys. That's the broken one, and then there's a new one, guys. So it's just a case of screwing that one back on, and what I'm going to do is just pull this pin out. Once I've got a chance, will it come out? Guys, unfortunately it doesn't look like it's going to come out, so it's like we're going to have to take the cover off. Not really looking forward to doing that, just because they're all sealed. It's all sealed, so you got to make sure all your seals and everything go back on again. So let me get that removed, guys, quickly. 5 screws you have to remove, 6 screws, sorry, and then it's just a case of moving it out of the way. It does give us enough room now to pull this pin out. There we go. And just get this last part done. Probably easy doing this if you remove the whole brace. It's not too difficult to do. And just, I did make a note of when I did remove this, how far out the tie rod was, sorry, the rod end was, and it was literally all the way in, so it looked like that. And just make sure it's in the right position for you to pop this pin back through. Now from experience, guys, you can see on this pin there's a hole there. This is what your clip goes through, just to put it in place. Now make sure that hole is pointing upwards, because if it isn't, you're going to struggle trying to put your pin back in again. So this is the direction you want to put this pin back in, and it's just a case of lining everything back up. Alright, so this rod end is now installed, guys, and the pin is in. It was a little bit more trickier than I initially thought, guys. I did have to wind this off a bit just to get that length exactly right, so I can feed this pin through. So it's just a case of trial and error. So that was quite straightforward once you found the right length. Other than that, guys, this steering servo top plate, make sure that seal is in its correct position, guys. That seal is important. It is going to stop any water getting into that receiver box and damaging that receiver box. So guys, that's now the EXB repaired. Just do a quick recap. We did replace the front arm, we did replace the bumper spring. We have added some extra shock absorbers to this bumper spring now. I'm hoping that's going to protect it and not break any more of them. We have replaced the fan on this ESC, and this fan is the version with the 3 at the end of the model number, so I did have to add my own loop to it. I showed you how easy that is to do, but if you do in the future need to replace your fan, then you need to go for the model number that has the 4 at the end and it has this loop already installed on it, and makes life a lot easier. I did have to cut into the housing for the fan to feed this plug through it as well, and then we did replace the rod end as well. So all in all, I'm quite happy with it. A bit more wrenching involved today than I initially thought, but as I said, I'm happy that I've repaired it all, and she's now ready for her next outing. So guys, if you found this video helpful, useful and informative, you know what to do. Make sure you hit the like, and if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe, guys. We're going to be giving this a good testing again and see how my reinforcement on the fan blades cope with another bash. So guys, today's been a pleasure, and until the next time, see ya.